Okay, this question says find the number of moles of MgSO4.7H2O in a pure sample that contains 0.0022 moles of oxygen atoms. Right now, look at this. Basically, what you have is like a salt which has like water crystallization, 7 molecules of water. Right. So MgSO4.7H2O. If I look at one formula unit, this is not a molecule as such, right? So if I look at one formula unit of this substance, what I can see is that this SO4, okay, no, it's not visible, right? As far as this O4 is concerned, yeah, MgSO4, this O4, 4 oxygen atoms comes from here and 7 oxygen atoms come from water. So each formula unit of this MgSO4.7H2O, you can say, has 11 oxygen atoms, right? So whatever is the number of moles of your MgSO4 into 11 will be the number of moles of oxygen atoms, right? So what you can say is number of moles of oxygen atoms will be equal to number of moles of this salt into 11. Right, because each formula unit you can see contains 11 oxygen atoms, 4 from the MgSO4 and 7 from 7 water molecules of crystallization. So here we can say that this is already given to us. It is given to us as 0.0022. This is what is asked, right? So simple question. So 0.0022 divided by 11, which is going to be how much? 0.0002, 3 zeros under 2, right? So you can write it as 2 into 10 to power minus 4 moles, which also obviously can be written as 0.2 into 10 to power minus 3 moles, which is 0.2 millimoles, right? So this is another way of writing it. Looking at the options, 2 millimoles, 0.2 moles, 0.002 moles, 0.0002 moles is what I was looking for, which is actually 0.2 millimoles. So our final answer is of course option D. Okay, this one says arrange the following elements in the increasing order of their metallic character, right? So what do you mean by metallic character? Behavior like a metal. What exactly are the characteristics of a metal? You already know, right? Now that all apart, what you can remember is that in your periodic table, just remember this, right? So on the left side you have all your metals, right? Sodium, potassium, rubidium, all of these, all your transition metals, all of these you can say are more or less on the left side, and on your right side you have non-metals, right? So on the left side you have metallic character higher, right side you have non-metallic character higher. If you're going from left to right, non-metallic character increases, metallic character decreases, right? And obviously on going from top to bottom, right, what is the characteristic of a metal? Easily gives out electrons, right? So if you are going down, if you're going from top to bottom, what you see is that ionization energy decreases and metallic character increases, right? So top to bottom we can say that metallic character will be increasing, right? And on going from left to right, what we see is that metallic character decreases. Now what are the elements that we have? I can see silicon, magnesium, okay, sodium, magnesium are from your third period, Namji, Al, C, Pascal R, right? So silicon is also there, phosphorus is also given to us. Another one that is given is beryllium, which is from magnesium, right? So second group, right? So yeah, these are the elements that are given to us. Of course, you can see that these are group 1 and group 2, right? So this is your alkali metals. Sodium is from alkali metals. Beryllium is beryllium and magnesium are alkaline earth metals. Most metallic character obviously I'm going to expect from these, right? And as far as silicon and phosphorus, obviously these are P block elements, third period elements. Carbon family silicon, and your phosphorus is from nitrogen family, right? So these are obviously non-metallic. And I'm going from left to right. You can see sodium, magnesium, silicon, phosphorus. Non-metallic character goes on increasing, metallic character goes on decreasing, right? So out of these, obviously phosphorus has the least metallic character. Then I would expect silicon to be the one, and then after that between beryllium and magnesium, right? Obviously left end you will have the most metallic character, so the most metallic is obviously going to be sodium. You can see in most of the options anyway sodium is given, right? So sodium is the most metallic one. Other than that, after that, I mean, of course magnesium will be less metallic. I'm going from left to right, but after that from magnesium to beryllium I'm going to the top, metallic character is also going to decrease further, right? So within like second group or within your alkaline earth metals, you can say okay, beryllium, magnesium, calcium, strontium, barium, radium, top to bottom, your metallic character keeps on increasing. So between magnesium and beryllium, magnesium is more metallic, and then you have beryllium, and then you will be having your silicon and phosphorus, of course, which are from p block and are non-metals, right? So looking at the options, where do I see sodium is there in 3 of them? Then I am expecting magnesium, which is there here and here. Then I'm expecting beryllium, which is there here. Then silicon and phosphorus. This is exactly what I was looking for. So my final answer, right? So metallic character, remember, left to right decreases, top to bottom increases, right? Mostly it's followed more or less entirely like this. So yeah, our final answer is of course B option. Okay, this question says, in which of the following molecules does the presence of a lone pair affect the bond angle? We know lone pair does have an impact. Lone pair is counted in steric number. We know lone pair does have a role to play as far as shape of the molecule is concerned. Although lone pair is directly not counted in shape, right? So shape is only where we look at all the nuclei and how they are connected. Lone pairs are not considered. But lone pair does at times have this influence that it is a more localized electron cloud, has a greater repulsion for bond pairs. So does tend to change the bond angles and all a little bit. So let's see which of the following the presence of lone pair affects the bond angle, right? So we want to see where all bond angles are getting affected. Shape is of course not discussed on the basis of lone pair. So what do we have? First one is ammonia. Ammonia, of course, we know has a pyramidal structure. Ammonia, nitrogen has one lone pair and 3 sigma bonds. Steric number 4, sp3 hybridization, tetrahedral geometry. And what we say is that, of course, this lone pair has an impact on the bond angle. It reduces it. We know the expected angle was 109 degree 28 minutes or 109.5 degrees, but it reduces to 107 degree because of greater repulsion of this denser electron cloud trying to take more space up around the nucleus of atom of nitrogen on the surface of nitrogen, right? So yeah, of course, here it does affect the bond angle. In H2O also, of course, we know lone pair does have that impact, right? So these are very simple molecules, so I'm not going through the steric number formula, right? Half of valence shell electrons plus number of monovalent atoms minus charge. I'm not using the formula to find steric number because we already know these really well, right? So as far as H2O is concerned, you have 2 lone pairs on oxygen and 2 bond pairs. Of course, we know the bond angle is reduced to approximately 104 degree, 104.5 degree as you wish. The bond angle is of course reduced from 109.5 degree, which is the tetrahedral angle. So yeah, of course, lone pair is affecting. Even this is the answer. In SF4, let's go via steric number. SF4, half of sulfur is 6th, oxygen family. So you have 6 electrons, 16th group, plus 6 valence shell electrons plus monovalent atoms. 4 fluorine atoms are monovalent. There is no charge. So you can see that the steric number is 5, which means it is sp3d. It is a trigonal bipyramidal geometry with 1 lone pair and 4 sigma bonds. SF4, right? So each sulfur fluorine, you have 1 sigma bond. So 4 sigma bonds and 1 lone pair. So you have TBP, and you know that in TBP lone pair goes to equatorial position for less repulsion. So you have a seesaw shape as far as sulfur is concerned. These you can see are slightly bent away from vertical. I did not draw it because it is expected because of the greater repulsion of lone pair. These will be pushed away. Bond angle will be less than, if I'm looking at these bond angles, they would be less than 90 degree. The equatorial axial angle would be less than 90 degree and axial angle will be less than 180 degree also. So yeah, of course, even here we can say that lone pair does affect the bond angles, right? So yeah, looking at D option, which says all of the above, is obviously going to be our final answer, because in all of them lone pair does affect the bond angle. Okay, this question says the ratio of wave numbers for the highest energy transition of an electron in Lyman series of He plus, okay, and Balmer series of hydrogen atoms. So we need highest energy transitions, right? Highest energy transitions are always the ones coming from infinity. N is equal to infinity to whichever level is defined for that particular series. This is the longest possible jump, highest energy jump that is possible, and we need the ratio of wave numbers, right? So wave number is 1 by lambda, which is your nu bar, bar, and nu bar 1 by lambda is supposed to be RH z square into 1 by n1 square minus 1 by n2 square. This is our Rydberg formula, right? So as far as wave numbers are concerned, obviously it is related to z as well as the series, so n1 and n2. So first let's look at the ratio. We need ratio, so let's speak about wave number of Lyman series of He plus, and that to the highest energy one, right? So highest energy would mean it is infinity to 1 that it is jumping. So this will be RH into Z helium plus, right? So helium atomic number is 2, right? So into 2 square into as far as Lyman series is concerned, we know it is the one where, I mean, highest energy is infinity to 1. So 1 by 1 square minus 1 by infinity square. Of course, 1 by infinity square is 0 and 1 by 1 square is 1. So this is going to be equal to 4 into RH. Right, RH into 4 into 1 by 1 minus 0, right, or 1 minus 0. So now we have wave number of Balmer series of your hydrogen atom only, right? So again, Balmer series is whenever there is transition to 2 and we are looking at highest energy, so infinity to 2. So this will be equal to RH into 1 square, right? Because it is hydrogen this time, so Z is 1. 1 by 2 square minus 1 by infinity square, right? 1 by 2 square because it is Balmer, and 1 by infinity square. So of course 1 by 2 square is 4 and 1 by infinity square is again 0. So this is going to be equal to RH divided by 4. Right. So if I take ratio of these, what am I going to get? 4RH divided by, what is this RH? RH is your Rydberg constant, right? So 1.1 into 10 to the power 7 per meter, roughly 1.09 whatever, and divided by RH by 4. So RH will cancel. 4 will go to the numerator. I'm going to get 16:1 as the ratio, right? So looking at the options, we can see that the correct answer is A, 16:1. Direct question here based on formula, right? So the difference between the heats of a reaction at constant pressure, okay, and volume for the reaction, this given reaction at 25 degrees C in kilojoule is, right? So what exactly is being spoken about here? The heat of reaction under constant pressure is basically our delta H, right? Delta H is same as QP. You might have come across this. And heat of reaction under constant volume, right? Heat of reaction under constant volume is going to be delta U. Think about this. Your H is so what is your under constant pressure conditions? Heat of the reaction is your enthalpy change, and under constant volume conditions, heat of reaction is going to be your internal energy change. The difference between them is your direct formula, right? So delta H minus delta U is supposed to be equal to delta NGRT. So yeah, all we have to do is find out delta NG and calculate the value, right? So what is this? This is going to be how many, what is delta Ng? Number of moles of gas products minus number of moles of gas reactants, right? So how many gaseous products do I have at 25 degrees C? 12 CO2 is there, and H2O is in liquid phase, so it's not relevant to me. So I can say that delta Ng will be equal to 12 minus C6H6. Benzene is also liquid under room condition. 15 O2 is used, right? So 12 minus 15 is going to be minus 3. So delta Ng is minus 3. So delta NGRT is going to be minus 3 into. Now, as far as R is concerned, I'm going to take 8.314 joule per mole per Kelvin. Temperature is of course 25 degrees C, which is 298. Roughly you can take it as 300, and 8.314 roughly you can take it as 25 by 3. So what do I get? I'm going to get minus 3 into 25 by 3 into 300, which is going to be 2500 into 3 is 7500, 7500, right? So I am getting minus 7500 joule. Of course there is approximation involved here in both R as well as T, but yeah, roughly somewhere around this is the answer. Looking at the options, I can see minus 7.43 kilojoule, right? So 7500 joule is 7.5 kilojoule. So yeah, my answer is A option, minus 7.43 kilojoule.